Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good day. Today is the last day of PBE. Game goes live tomorrow. I am super hyped. So I wanted to do a quick video talking about the comps I plan on using to climb on my Get Challenger or Cry Trying series, where I plan on like streaming every single day of set 14. I've been doing it for the entire PBE so far, and I'm gonna just keep streaming and hope I can hit Challenger while grinding every day. So, just to get started real quick, I'm gonna talk about the first comp I plan on playing, which is Vanguard Marksman. I think that this comp is like gonna be probably the most stable default if you start on any AD items. Like any, start game sword bow drop might just default towards this immediately. There are two versions of the comp. You can play 4 Marksman for Vanguard, or you can play 6 Vanguard with Skarner Braum, but then you take out Jinx and Jin. I prefer the 4 Marksman version simply because, first of all, they nerfed Vanguard recently. It says here 20% DR while shielded, but they corrected it. It's 10% while shielded. So it impacts the 6 pretty hard. Wait, am I tripping? Hold on a second. I'm pretty sure according to what I saw from Mort's tweet, it is uh it got nerfed at 6 the hardest. Because if it didn't, then DR 6-piece DR while shielded. Ah, okay. So 6-piece DR while shielded dropped from 20 to 16. It's 10% at every other stage. I do believe that that's a significant enough nerf that the 4 marksman version is going to be better, especially because they slightly nerfed the damage amp you get from Golden Ox. So your Aphelios is gonna need that tiny bit of extra damage that he gets from the 4 marksman in order to output the damage. Obviously, you play what you hit. If you're playing and like as you're leveling up, you natural like Skarner 2, Braum 2, like fuck it, just play 6 Vanguard. But I do believe that the 4 Vanguard 4 marksman version is gonna be better, especially because you can always add God of the Net, and it like you can give Golden Ox to Zaya. It will make your damage output so insane. Maybe at this point, I would start thinking of dropping the 2 extra marksmen. I also do want to talk about what the like early game of this board is, like who the item holders are. So let me just duplicate this real quick. Uh-oh. Why is that not duplicating properly? Okay, there we go. So early game, the way I like to play this board is, let me just clear it. I do like to play around Kog'Maw holding Ginsu. I also like playing, like, using Kindred to link into Jin, or if you get really lucky and get her from an orb, Jinx. I do feel like Jinx holds Zaya items perfectly. Like, you can just drop all the items you put on Zaya on Jinx. And then from here, you just play around Skarner for Vanguard and maybe Silas. So like this type of board early game is going to be really strong without the Jin, obviously. I think that that's like really good with items on Jinx. If you had Jinx 2 on like 3-2, you're cruising until like 4-2, 4-5 maybe, where you can roll down for the real board. Speaking of items, Aphelios wants double Ginsu, Zaya wants IE Shojin and +1 on both. I think for Aphelios, if I had to guess, last item might be IE. I don't know if Gunblade is good. I'm not sure. I haven't tested it enough. For Zaya, I'm assuming last item is just Guard Break. Uh, put your tank items on Leona, Jarvan until you hit her probably, and then transfer over to Leona. I honestly don't know what the tank items, the best ones are. I have here Warmog. I'm guessing like maybe you want like Warmog even Shroud +1. Maybe freaking what's it called? Like this and then get anti-heal in somehow. It's like some fire on something else, or put some fire on Leona. Doesn't really matter, just as long as you have anti-heal and shred, you'll do fine. The other way I think would be good to pivot into this board is actually playing around an early Jarvan drop. If you drop Jarvan early, Graves can hold a bunch of AD items, like IE, like maybe even Last Whisper. So if you have these two early, you can in the mid game play around like Rengar Jinx because it gets really easy to just add one more Street Demon and you can play around this core mid game. It's really nice because you get to stack Golden Ox before you have Aphelios. So you get the Aphelios, so you already have that pretty stacked up. So that's really cool. So I think those are the two like ways I would play into this board personally. Also from this board, you can always just like pivot into Rengar reroll. So, you know, you just move that here, like drop this, drop that. The Rengar reroll board, if I remember correctly, it is this, that, yeah, Vex, Senna, Jarvan, probably Rost. Yeah, always Rost, I think. And then this. If you have Executioner +1, you can stop here. If not, you want to find Urgot later in the game. And you just play around like all the Divinicorps basically. Something like this would be really good. Items on Rengar, I believe, well, you don't want IE if you're playing Executioners. You probably want a Hajj on Rengar. You want like these types of items basically. I do think Vex really likes blue buff. You can just flex. I think items are pretty flexible on this comp. I think Rengar wants Hodge plus Edge of Night +1. That +1 can be like, you know, I don't know. Maybe Deathblade. Maybe. I don't know if you want BT because double healing is not the greatest, but I think like could be, yeah, it could be Titan, something like that. As long as you have Hodge, Edge of Night on him, that's good. You can put these items on Vex. You can, I think Morello, Vex spreads Morello really good. Varus spreads Morello really good. And you always put this on Senna for like Shred for Rengar. And you put Rengar same side. I maybe have Renekton by Rengar type of thing. I think you go for 3-star Rengar, 3-star Varus. If you hit 3-star Graves, you play it, but I wouldn't chase it personally. So there is that. Let me reopen that actually. I don't want to close. The other board, I haven't really played this myself, but I've heard it's really good. I'm not gonna like straight up vouch for it. I think my biggest issue with this board is just I don't know what MF itemization is. I know she wants crit, because she already gets amp from Syndicate, so amp and crit multiplicatively stacks. That's really good. I don't think you need Trojan on her, so maybe it is just IE Guard Breaker +1. Obviously, you play what you hit, but I don't know what her items are. I do believe that after they nerfed 5 Syndicate, it's 3 Syndicate, 4 Vanguard, and then you just stack Dynamo as you go. So like, you know, you play this and like you swap one of them with Aurora when you hit her type of thing. Um yeah. In this board I'm assuming Leona holds your tank items, but I haven't really played this much. So I can't like straight up vouch for it and be like, yeah, this is great. It's gonna be like one of those like in my back pocket type of thing. I know what the board looks like. If I hit like an early, you know, augment that pivot like that like makes me want to play towards Dynamo or towards Syndicate, I might go for this. If not, probably not. Especially because these items, like if I have these items early, I'm most likely playing more towards Zaya than towards MF. But that's just where I'm at right now. Divinicorps Zed, that's the 5 Divinicorps First Layer board. I just played a game of this. It's really nice when you have Z2. Before Z2, kind of struggle. You do put the items on Shaco, obviously. Shaco holds Zed items really well, but it's a bit of a like an interesting board. I've only really played it a couple of times. I watched a couple of VODs of it. It's a strong board. They did nerf Zed, so it's not as like insane right now, but still a pretty like nice board to play towards. The main issue with this board is that I do not think you go in saying I'm gonna play Zed because there is just no backup. Like you go level 8, you roll down, you don't hit Zed, you're just going like 6. It's really not good. So you kind of just pivot into this board if you end up like getting items that fit it really well or units that fit it really well, but I would not like personally go in being like, yeah, no, I'm definitely playing towards this board. That's just not, I don't think so. Oh, that's, well, okay, well, that's the Rengar board. I do not, like I said, I don't think that is this. Yeah, I forgot that I had it already. So yeah, there's it. Oh. What did I put in different? I put Gragas over. Really? Yeah, no, I don't think it's that. I suppose you can like play Gragas until you find Renekton, and you just add Renekton Urgot type of thing. But yeah, no, I don't think it's Gragas. I think this is like the capped version of the board with like Renekton biting Rengar or maybe biting Graves type of thing. So there is that. 6 Bastion Cypher. This is just the board you default into when you cash out an early Cypher. It's just Zeri 6 Bastion with like 3 Cypher. These are like Draven's like best items from what I've observed. Again, these are Zed's best items. Like you play what you hit. You play mostly around what your cash out gives you. But this is like if you get a generic, bunch of gold or bunch of component anvils cash out, you usually want to play around this board. Renekton bites Zed because Zed heals it back up. I know they nerfed both Renekton and Zed, but I do still think that this board is really strong. Like it might not be an instant like first when you cash out like 400 or 500, but it's still like an easy top 3 from that spot. So if I ever load in, I have a bunch of Cypher, I'm definitely playing that. And now for, what's probably gonna take up the most of our time. My favorite board. I posted this on Twitter the other day. This is the uh Strategist Flex board. And I kind of like built this Venn diagram just showing how I like think of packages that fit onto this board. Where, late game you always swap out LeBlanc, you want to swap her out for Garen usually. Zac, if you don't find Garen or if you find a really early Zac that you want to like stack up, you just immediately swap LeBlanc out. LeBlanc is basically like she score mid game ish, but you don't really like play her on your end game board. You almost always drop her first. So the way I think about it is you always want to have like 3 street demons. So since you're always playing Nico Echo, your third one can be Rengar, can be Brand, or can be Samira. It's Brand if you're playing towards Techie. So let's say like you start in the game, you have like Shojin plus like GG. You're playing towards Brand or Ziggs, but like one of the two is gonna be your item holder. Brand could fit really well into your like 3 street. If you're playing more towards Amp with like Annie, you obviously put Samira as your last. Um, if you like, have blue buff plus a bunch of crit items, you might want to play around Vex, at which point Rengar pairs with her very well. I find that like a good capped version of this board is playing around Renekton Urgot, but you know, if you don't hit them and instead hit like Viego Kobuko, you can fit those on the board as well. Still playing around like Vex Rengar and then maybe like, throw in Annie at level 9 type of thing. But this is like super flexible. I also personally find it super fun. You play around these amp units before you find Samira if you're playing Annie. So I'm gonna like slowly go just like quickly, actually not slowly, quickly go over like the transition board for this. I do think that early game you almost always play around this, pardon me, this type of board with the 4 Techie, 2 Bastion, and 2 Cyber Boss, because Vagar is a very good item holder for like AP or mana items, unless, and this is the exception to this, is you start the game on 2-1 and you get 10,000 IQ. If you have 10,000 IQ, it will give you Echo and LeBlanc. You just play around those. You lose streak. Stage 2, maybe even stage 3 as well. Spike on like 3-7 or 4-2, depending on like how healthy and how rich you are. But this is like the alternative, but you don't always play that. So usually you will play around Vagar instead. I do like that board quite a lot. Sometimes I also like one other augment that I found that's really fun to pivot into this board from is I think it's called freestyling. That's the one that makes you, yeah, the one where you paint all the hexes. So I like this augment because it usually gives you a Zyra, Echo, and Mundo. So you already have the Echo, and then you just like move them around every round while lost streaking stage 2. By 3-2, you should have painted the whole board, and you get 25 gold, which allows you to like roll down, stabilize on level 6, and then get ready to like, go 8. The main point of this comp is you do not want to donkey roll on level 8. You want to roll just enough to like stabilize and then go level 9. Because the best part about this comp is you can play any 5 cost with the exception of Aurora. I don't think you can play Aurora. It's not like you can't, you can, but she's not necessarily a desirable unit. But like you look here, we have Renekton, we have Urgot, we have Viego, we have Kobuko, we have Zac, we have Garen, we have Samira. You can play any 5 cost on this board. So you want to go level 9, just find the 5 cost and play around them. Now, obviously, in order to get there, you need to be like somewhat stable. So the units that you can stabilize around are either in the 3 cost. You can stabilize around Yumi. They did nerf her quite a bit, but she item holds really well, and she pairs really well with Annie. So Yumi Annie mid game is a really nice option. You can still play around Annie as like your main quote unquote carry. You give her like triple mana items. She'll put out a bunch of bears and they will be unstoppable. So usually when you do that, you're pairing her with at least one more amp unit in either Nefiri or Nidalee. Sometimes both, not necessarily though. And then you play like the rest of the board. So you play obviously Ziggs, you play Nico, you play, where's Echo? You play Echo, and LeBlanc goes out very shortly after. So this is like an example of like, this board would like maybe, Echo 2, Yumi 2. If you're healthy enough, this is like gonna get you to level 9 type of thing. Though at this point you put the items on Yumi until you find Annie. And then once you get 9, you drop, 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 and you play around like Viego, Samira, and then whatever you hit, usually you want Garen if you have him. You can play around Zac as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you have an open slot here for like, you can always play Kobuko here as well. This is like a good version of the board. Obviously, another like alternative is, let's say you don't have blue buffs, right? You can always play around Ziggs. If you find him early, especially 2-star, he will item hold these items. He's not like so far, like they did buff him back, but he's not as good as he was at the start of the PBE cycle. So, like, your mileage may vary type of thing. I have actually found the brand, even before they buffed him, holds these items better, but obviously you play whichever one of the two you 2-start. So if you have brand, you want to play Viego, but if you can't find the Viego, you can always play like around Vagar, and maybe you're playing around Vagar and then you just randomly find the Kobuko. So at that point it's like, okay, forget about Viego, let's just flex in Poppy. And that's a good version of the board as well. And this is like, at this point you super boss Kobuko. Obviously Kobuko holds items really well. He does like everything. This guy like tanks, CCs, does damage. This guy's a goat. But yeah, this is like a good version of the board as well. If, you're rolling down, you hit brand, like you hit a brand pair and you have a Shojin, you're like, okay, maybe I'll play towards this. Uh, but yeah, again, usually the best version is around Viego. If you're playing Viego, you usually want Annie. And then from here, you either Strategist or Golden Ox your brand. I would say maybe your Golden Ox Ziggs Strategist brand type of thing. And then you have an open slot. You can always just shove in the Zac in here. Awesome. This board isn't gonna go insane, easy top two. So yeah, like what I like the most about this is just how flexible it is. You're usually the only thing that like helps you decide is whether in the early game you have more tiers or less tiers. More tiers, you're gonna play more towards Annie or Vex. Less tiers, you're gonna play more towards Brand or Ziggs. But again, it's still interchangeable. Like if I have a bunch of tiers and I hit like Ziggs 2 or Brand 2, I'm most likely gonna play that. It's not the end of the world, right? And playing around Vagar early is really nice because Vagar 2, this Vagar 2 is just not okay. Like this unit 2 starred will hold any AP items you throw on it and just, go insane. Pretty much very stable all the way until like mid stage 4 from what I've seen, and I've heard a bunch of challenger players say the same thing. It's just like this unit is really strong. It's like you can play around that with 4 techies, and like because you're playing Zyra in the early game, it kind of like naturally fits that you can fit in like Echo, and maybe if you luckily find an early Nico, you can fit that in. And then you can slowly like, pivot out of like, Seraphine Shyvana and instead play like, LeBlanc Yumi, and then maybe you find Brand and now you don't really need Zyra. So this is like, the type of just swaps that you make throughout the game. Then you find Ziggs, you might swap out LeBlanc for, I don't know, like whatever 5 cost you randomly happen to find. Because again, every 5 cost except maybe Aurora fits on this board. So like, oh shit, Garen on 4-2, bet, let's go. And then you just start stacking a bunch of mods, you put them on whoever you think is gonna carry your items. And maybe you're not very happy playing around Brand with a blue buff, but you have these items and you hit the Brand, but later in the game you find the Vex. You can always pivot into the Vex if you like find the Vex and freaking Ergot, just buy Brand, that's fine. And then you find another way to fit in Street Demon. Actually, no, oh yeah, you just get a Rengar. How hard can it be to find the Rengar? Unless someone is re-rolling, you're gonna find that Rengar. And you just drop Poppy Vagar and add in we already have a Ziggs. Add in like Zac and maybe Kobuko. That's another version of the board that fits. Or if you don't, or if you find like, Renekton instead of Zac, there you go. It's super flexible. A lot of these are like interchangeable. Oh, I didn't find Argot or Renekton. What am I gonna do? You can play Viego Annie. You can play Annie Samira. These are all viable options. They did nerf Samira a tiny bit, so the end game they nerfed Samira a bit and Viego a bit. So what like this version of the board with like Annie, Viego, Samira used to be like the most OP one. It's funny. When I was making this, I considered like highlighting them and calling it max cap, but then they nerfed it, and I was like, well, you know what? I kind of expected it to be nerfed, but it doesn't change that you can still play around this whole comp. Anyways, I've been rambling for like 20 minutes. I'm gonna stop now. These are the comps I plan on spamming. Mostly this if I have any AP, and this if I have any AD, and like if I have the spots for them, I'll consider these other options. But like priority is AP, it's this, AD, it's this. Cypher is just play Cypher. And then, if I have an absurd slot for like Rengar reroll, I'll play that. If I have something that makes me feel like I should go towards these, I might play that as well. Though my expectation is Misfortune is going to be like probably the most contested carry day one. That's just my guess. I don't quote me on it. I might be wrong. This board is also, oh, it's very nice. Like I said, You don't want to load into a game and be like, yeah, this is Zed game, and then you don't hit and you just go sixth. So yeah, I'll be again streaming every single day, at 3:30 EST on weekdays. On weekends, I'm not entirely sure yet what my schedule is, but yeah, it's gonna be 3:30 EST on weekdays. I'll link my stream somewhere. But yeah, so feel free to drop by if you found this helpful. Let me know. All right, peace. Thank you for watching. Bye. I mean, just like, add this bit in real quick, editing this in real quick at the end. Tomorrow, exceptionally, since it is day one of the patch, I am going to be streaming quite a bit earlier, probably like around 10 or 11 a.m. EST. I'll be doing like a very long stream to like, go around go through the first day, try and get like as many games as possible, climb as high as possible. And then after that, I am gonna be streaming at 3:30 p.m. EST every other weekday. Okay, now that I've added that bit in, thank you. Feel free to drop by. Day one of the patch, I'll be streaming. I'll be having fun. I'll be trying to climb. Yay! Good music. I have a good taste in music. I swear. Yeah. Anyways, bye.